And hey there, folks. We are live. Welcome to the Afterburn Soccer Show. Looks like all systems are go here on my end as we welcome you to this live stream. As we close out FC Dallas this season, we might have another kind of off-season show coming up. But North Texas's season continues, as you saw from that incredible strike there from Thomas Pondeca late, as North Texas found a way forward over the Vancouver Whitecaps too. What an exciting match and an exciting opportunity for those youngsters. We're expecting Jose, hopefully. He may get pulled away, or our buddy Kuv to join us. We'll talk a little FC Dallas offseason too in just a moment. But we'll also get started with or touch upon where North Texas is. In fact, let's start with North Texas. For those folks listening in, and we appreciate you liking and subscribing. And by the way, my name is Nathan. You can follow me at Nathan J. Hill on X, and of course at Afterburn.soccer, which is part of the Substack network. So if you don't have a Substack account, please register. Please follow us. Follow other FC Dallas blogs and resources out there, including Steve Davis's Texas 11 and our buddy Drew at Big D Soccer. Just we need all the support you can as we try to provide some other insights to this team as FC Dallas and this entire and Kuv is joining us now. Hey Kuv, can you hear me well?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. All right, great. Well, we're still working through my intro. I'm expecting Jose to join us, but we'll see if he gets pulled away or not. But yeah, I was just telling folks, follow all the FC Dallas content out there. Third Degree, Big D, Texas 11, anywhere you can get it, just so we're supporting and these folks out here trying to offer different perspectives to give us information
100%.
on what's going on with FC Dallas. But so 2 wins this past weekend. FC Dallas won at home 2-1 over the visiting Sporting Kansas City. It was a final home win of the season, 10th home win of the season for them. Another goal, 16th goal from Petar Musa. So a really beautiful moment for him. We'll hear from interim head coach Peter Luccin in just a moment. But then the big news, too, that North Texas, with a late stunner from Thomas Pondeca, advances on further into the playoffs. It was a nervy match. In fact, I'm going to start there. I was able to ask interim head coach Michel Garbini of North Texas, because one of the narratives in this thing was that when they selected Whitecaps 2 to play, they wanted a challenge. They wanted to pick a more difficult team as they began the playoffs. And so they definitely got that as Whitecaps came back from 2 down to tie the game, 2 counterattack type goals that were given up. Here's what he said about that and the work that's to be done for this team.
Yeah, so we knew that Whitecaps will give us a tough game. We could have decided the game on the first half based on the half we played, the chances we created. If you were a little bit more clinical on the last part of the field, I think we could have put more players in front of the goal. What we're looking for is a learned lesson for us. Is a learned lesson that in this stage of the season, if you sleep like that, like we sleep on the second half, we can get punished. Saying against maybe against other teams, we're not gonna be able to come back. But today was a learned lesson for us. Hopefully, it doesn't happen anymore. We're gonna fix our problems for next week. We're gonna look better.
And North Texas will play Tacoma Defiance, who soundly beat their opponent 4-0 last weekend. So, Tacoma's going to come to town in excellent form. So, yeah, I think Michel's point is, in the playoffs, anything can happen. Teams have nothing to lose, and if you give other opponents an opening, they're going to take it. So you may not get so lucky and be able to eke out a win. Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, did North Texas learn a lesson from this match if they want to continue? I think that's what we'll be watching this week. Kuv, Colin, were you surprised to see Logan Farrington starting for North Texas?
I'll be honest. Yes and no. So going through North Texas season, They seem to use Logan very sparingly, obviously, but I think the main idea before the season started was, hey, this guy's really good coming out of college, but we have Musa, we have Jesus, we have these good attacking options. He might not get minutes. Let's take him to North Texas. And I heard it from a couple of guys that I know around the club and everything that he was ready to play and outperforming some of these bigger players since day one, rather than training with Nico and then also with Peter. So it was one of those things where they come from Texas to develop, and it ended up just being a better situation for the first team to have him off the bench. But I'm not too terribly surprised. I think if FC Dallas made the playoffs, he wouldn't be playing for North Texas. Um, but since Dallas' season is over, I'm not surprised to keep him getting minutes, keep him developing, and keep him on that upward trajectory like we saw him this season.
Yeah, and it turns out he was eligible to play because he had appeared in like 4 matches, so that they could utilize him. So it was an interesting. It was a surprise to us who had a little bit out of left field there. We didn't expect him, and I don't know what it meant internally, but because Tariq Scott and others have been in excellent form for North Texas, so we'll see if that continues or if they switch it up and bring Logan off the bench. But it adds to the talent that Michel can turn to on that squad, just like we saw, being able to turn to a guy like Thomas Pondeca, who comes in and just blasts a beautiful shot home that we saw at the beginning of the show. A beautiful stuff. I mean, I'm also, I guess my subplot of all this too is because I think these playoff, it's a different kind of soccer. It's a pressure cooker experience, and we need players who are ready to step up in those moments. So to see Pondeca, who did sign a first team contract, kind of step up. Also, Herbert Endelay with the opening goal. I like to see that for his development and his potential because he already has some senior team minutes. Of course, Nolan Norris got a lot of minutes too. I mean, so that's the other subplot I'm looking for, to see which of these guys from this team are ready to take the next step and really compete and push for more minutes, because we desperately need some fresh talent, I think, at the senior team level.
100%. Yeah, I mean, something that was very confusing to a bunch of us early on in the season was why we weren't seeing Herbie with the first team, especially with Gio out, and until we got Ruan and started playing Paul as the wingback once everyone got healthy. Not to diss my boy Emma, but Emma wasn't looking too hot out there, and we were like, Herbie's surely got to take advantage of this. He's been looking for first team minutes. He got first team minutes early on. Surely he could take this spot until Gio gets back, or when we traded for Ron or moved Paul back to right back. So it was one of those things where it was very confusing to see. But I think he's ready. I think he's one that to watch out for next year, to make that jump, especially with Gio's whole situation. Still kind of about that. And then Emma's contract is up at the end of this year, and based on his performance, I don't know if Dallas signs him. So that leaves, Paul Ariola, and that's if he doesn't, get traded to San Diego, maybe, hopefully, maybe, we'll see. And then if we re-sign Ruan, that's a DP right back, basically. And then Ruan, who's getting older and needs to be re-signed. It's really hard to not see Endelay get minutes next year. And then someone that I would love to see next year is Nolan Norris, like you mentioned, at center back. And the reason I say at center back is he has the ability to play the ball, and he's left-footed. I'm not a Marco Farfan apologist or anything, but him playing at center back, it's not good. I'm not gonna hype him up for it. It hasn't been great. He looks a little uncomfortable out there. If we don't sign a starting level center back, I would not be upset rocking Kosin, Noah Norris at the back next season.
Well, let's shift over to the FC Dallas conversation, because 2-1 win to end the season at least gives fans a little little something positive to remember. It was a great crowd too. I got to give credit to all the fans who showed up when there really was nothing to play for, but it looked like a good environment. I think the team acknowledged it after the match. Well, here's what Luccin said, kind of about reflecting after the match, which to him reminded him of this season, just the ups and downs of this season for FC Dallas.
It was a perfect example what we have done this year, right? Like brilliant moments, good moments, and bad moments. And every single time after winning by 2 and instead to keep pushing and pressing and doing what we have been doing a little bit in the first half, we start going back and passing the ball around, not trying to hurt the opponents. And yes, yeah, being like will be the example of this year. But again, I will say that happy at least to win that game in front of our people, because again, that's fantastic. The fans every time pushing and that connection with the players it was fantastic. So I will say that tonight is only a good thing that I saw is that connection between players and fans. It was unbelievable. It was fantastic.
Connection between players and fans, something perhaps to build upon. But yeah, I mean, this final home win, it's good to win, good to end in the year on that positive note. But yeah, it reflected so much of just this team. They go up 2-0, look to be the better team by and far, and then allow the other squad to kind of make their way back into things, to make it look a little nervy. I mean, is that what you felt too, Kuv, as you watched this final match?
I'll say my connection was a little bit wonky there. If you could repeat that question, sorry.
Oh, okay, so yeah, you do freeze every once in a while here on my end too. I see it. So, all right, sorry. But yeah. Does this win, does it just remind you of 2024?
I mean, yeah, yes and no. And I'll say I'll lean more towards yes. I always tend to be in the middle and then give explanations for both. I'm going to stick to yes. And I kind of feel that way for multiple reasons. We played really well in one half, and in the other half, didn't do so hot. That was a constant reminder of 24, even with Nico and with Luccin. With Nico, it was more play super defensive, look solid for a half, and get like 1 or 2 good chances. Like, all right, maybe we can get some points out of this game. Maybe we can get a win. Maybe we can get a draw on the road or something. And then the second half or the first half would kill us. This game against SKC, the first 10 minutes was kind of a little bit shaky, kind of like a normal game for us this season. And then we turned it on for 30 minutes, and beginning of the second half, a little wonky. Made some subs, looked good for 10 minutes, and then as we made more and more subs, it seemed to go more and more, a little more, a little bit out of there. So it's one of those things for me where this game was like the perfect storm for 2024 and how to end it, because you had a little bit of everything, and what really made Dallas or FC Dallas, you could say good in some areas and bad in others. You can see it in this game. In my opinion, better than early 2024, but it was a good way to end the season with how we've been playing recently and consistently.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that's what Luccin was trying to say, was just like, oh, we can look dominant and then we let our foot off the gas. And North Texas could look like that too at times. It's a curious thing when you have a team of veterans who should know better. But I think it's just it encapsulates everything that happened this season. And so it's hard. It's hard to say like what is clearly going to fix it. Is it a mentality issue? Is it? And here's the Musa goal. Well, it was beautiful.
Oh, beautiful.
And is it player and personnel issue? Is it a coaching issue? Is it a tactical issue? It's a little bit of all of that coming together. yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that'll be the question I think that they're going to have to try to solve over the offseason, because to have a 16-goal striker, you're obviously in a better position than a lot of teams, and so that's not an issue. But what are the pieces around him? And yeah, the team was really unhealthy for most of the season, so maybe getting a healthy team to start 2025 will make a big difference. But yeah, it's going to be a tough problem to solve for this front office as they look for a coach, as they try to figure out what to do with this roster to get them in better shape going into next season. Well, here's my question. Then let's shift over. Well, we got some field level highlights coming. We're about to. I think this is about to be the own goal there, potentially. Which I don't know what that defender was doing. I was like, I guess he was trying to head it over the goal, but boy, it was anyway. Well, Colin, let me do this as I'll switch back to our cameras here. A little game here. Let's say your first three players that you know are locks. We will see them in 2025 without a doubt. Like, if you're putting in that role of GM, like, these guys are not going anywhere. And then also the three players who are first out that you think it's time to let them go. And I guess that could include even by trade. You mentioned Paul Arriola as someone who, we'll see. San Diego may think his price is too steep, but there's a lot to have a hometown boy come back and help you launch your franchise. And he had a much better second half of the season than first half.
Yep.
So, but we got other guys who, are, their contracts are expiring, or they may just be their time has come to an end. So for your three top players that you think, these guys, we've got to build around them. Go with that first.
For sure. So, I mean, the first two right off the board are going to be pretty self-explanatory. They're going to be two of our DPs, our designated players. It's got to be Petar Musa. The most pro debut season in FC Dallas history by, I believe, 3 goals. Jason Kreis, I believe, had the record at 13 before Petar Musa. And I truly believe that if Musa had a good first half of the season under Nika like he did under Luccin, he would have broke not only record by even more goals, but he probably would have taken the season-long record too. So to think that, I think it was under Nico, he had 3 goals in 9 or 10 games, something like that. And then the rest of the season, he had the other 13. It was crazy to think about the production he was getting. And that's still without Allen and Jesus healthy most of the time. And Leggett had that knock as well. Alara Mindy had a knock, and he was still scoring. Imagine if he had that production that we had towards the back half of the season with him as well. Petar Musa has to be someone we build around if we can hold on to him. He is, I believe, 26 or 27, somewhere in there. He's reaching his prime. Came from Europe to use Dallas as a way to get back into the Croatian national team, to hopefully propel himself back to Europe. Ipswich Town did want him in the summer, just kind of looked at him, didn't offer anything, nothing like that. That was confirmed by Tom Bogert today, and also in the summer. So we might lose him, but if I'm Andrei Zanata, I'm doing anything I can to keep him here as well in Velasco. And the reason, I know I said in the summer whenever we had offers that we probably should have taken it for him, especially coming off an ACL, to make our money back. Looking at his contract situation, he is signed through this next year with a club option for the following year in 26. So we have that club option to where he's doing really well for us. Let's trigger that option, or maybe give him a new contract, raise that salary a little bit to keep him here. Or if he starts playing well first half of the season and he wants to go back to Argentina still, like he said already, we could sell him then. But if still, and I'm wanting to rebuild for next year, I'm keeping Musa and I'm keeping Velasco for sure. And then this third one, it's going to be a little bit out there because I like to be a little bit out there, but it's going to go off of his loan, making it a permanent transfer. Show, when he's been with Alarmindi in the midfield, has just been a rock solid duo. Whenever they're playing together, they both like to play off each other. Alarmindi, when he's in midfield with Legit, he's always kind of having to stay back a little bit. He's not able to go up field as much as 9 times out of 10, either Ibiaga or Coast would be at the back, push forward. They miss a tackle. 9 times out of 10, we concede. So, but you look at Show, and Show has been, in my opinion, the signing of the winter, to say for signings of the winter, but probably second best signing of the season. In my opinion, Show's just been fantastic, and that'd be my third lock for the next season. Get that solidified midfielder. That way, if we let Alarmindi go, we can get a true attacking playmaker next to him. We can drop Legit there next to him if we don't sign anybody. And I'd still be confident in that midfield moving forward to next season.
Well, good. So you said Musa, Velasco, and Show, and I like that surprise in that throw in, because my first two are the same. I think Musa and I think you can argue that if you get a good offer for Velasco, that take it. He's rehabbed a bit. He's shown he can be dangerous, but I also think he's just so intriguing, and I'd love just to see him build his value even a bit more, and maybe a strong start to 2025. We'll have options, but I still like that. I think Show. My question about Show is just, when do they need to trigger it? Can they wait till next summer? Because it's a year loan, I'm assuming. So I'm assuming it's not just a half. It could be a half season, but I think it's a year loan. So they have till next summer. So they could wait a little bit on that. And Delgado's would probably be my third option. He's in that same category, but I think they do need to make the decision on him. And mid-season, I would have said it's a no-brainer. And I think the general consensus is still like, yeah, he's someone, but it depends on the price, and it depends too on how they rate him now, because he did have an injury and he has not been as productive lately, but that injury messed everybody up. So that's the question, is to evaluate, is that injury going to come back? But for a bit there, he was one of our best players. And so I think he could be someone to help sort of build around. But it's just the challenge right now, because so in truth, my third would still be Paz. I think Martin Paz is still those three guys you build around, and then the other pieces, because I think the problem with Delgado, and you got a fan here in the chat, Koof. But the problem with Delgado too is, like, what tactically is the next manager going to want to do? Because we thought he was coming in as sort of a defensive mid, and while I think he can play there, he is far more dangerous as a sort of a number 10. And so, do you turn that over to Velasco? Do you want Delgado to compete there in a different role? So I think that's going to make a big decision on whether or not they keep him. But he seems like a really good talent, young player. So, but all right, let's switch to the next one then. First three players out. All right, first three players out. And this could be a little harder. I think Tumasi's time has run. I mean, I thought it was very interesting though that he got minutes on Saturday.
Yeah.
That Luccin needed to turn to someone on the right wing back, and he turned to Emma. So I'm not unconvinced that they don't still see a lot of value with Emma. And so I don't know, but I think you let that go. You say, great servant, thank you for your time with the club. Also, I'm torn now on Ibiaga, because Luccin, if he gets the job, he may want to keep Ibiaga, because he seems to have favored Ibiaga over Tafari. So I don't know what that looks like. And frankly, I thought Sebastian and Paul Areola played pretty decently over the second half of the season, so it's tough. But I would love to make room by moving on from Paul, and opening up that space. And then I don't know about the third other, other than Dante Sealy. Just it's finally time that has run its course as well. Good try, son. We wish
Yeah.
it could have been a storybook kind of thing for, the son of a legend to make it, but it just didn't work. It's time.
Yeah. Yeah, so looking at my three, we agree on the first one, Emma Tumasi. It's just like I was saying, beginning of the season, he was the one and only right back at beginning of the season, and then started off all right. It looked a little bit different from last year. I will be honest. But after that, first 2 or 3 games, he just went downhill a little bit. And I have the salary guide pulled up here. He's our, let's see, he's our 10th highest earner on the team at 370K. Meanwhile, you look at players, Gio making 70K less at 300. You have, Herbie on 71K, the league minimum. Uh, and you just look at Ruan, who was on 400K. 30K difference in salary for a player of Ruan over Tumasi. Give me that every day of the week. Now I understand we would have to re-sign Ruan to a brand new contract for next season, but Tumasi's probably going to want a little bit of a pay raise every season too. So I'd be much more willing to give that money to Ruan for next season. So Emma is first on my list for time to move on. Second on my list is someone whose contract also expires with no options. Eugene Ansa.
Okay.
Biggest biggest waste of salary cap space. It seemed to be a move to where they're trying to get someone to replace Hader, knowing Hader's contract was expiring, and his playing time going down a little bit due to form and other reasons. So I think they just try to take a punt on somebody. Free transfer, which is great deal of business. I'll take anyone on a free transfer, but not someone who has 100 minutes over a season and a half, and he's the 5th highest earner on our team. No, that's too high. 8th. He's 8th at 600K. People that make more than him are like Ibiaga by 20K, Legit by 150. And those players, even though I agree with you, aren't the best performers, did a heck of a lot more than Eugene Ansa. So Ansa's got to be number 2 for me. And then number 3, this one, even though I mentioned Paul being traded, someone else I would move on from anyways, would probably be Legit. And the reason I say Legit over Paul is Paul, during these last couple of games, has been a pretty dang good right back. And that's him playing true right back as well, like having to get back and play defense. And he's kind of started to learn, okay, I can't get quite as far forward now in this position. Let me sit a little bit back and let my winger or my midfielder on my side come into that space. And it's been so nice to see. Bernie playing on the wing with Paul this past game was like a 1-2 combo. Little triangles, just Paul to Laura and a long ball to Bernie, or a ball to Show and the ball to Bernie, or they overlap with Paul, and it was just, if I can get a combination like that next season, I'd be willing to bite that DP money for Paul Horiola a little bit more, and not feel as bad about it. So that would be my third one, just because Legit is, I believe, 31, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. And we have him under contract for a while, until 2026, and he's 32.
Yeah.
So it's like we got him for 2 more years. He'll be 34. Is that someone we want to be paying this, 800 or 750, 800K to, when we can get probably someone younger and maybe fill up a U22 spot for someone as good as Legit, and the U22 doesn't count on the cap? I mean, I think it's one of those things where you just gotta, the cap situation's not great, but cut 2 TAM players, bring in 2 TAM level players, maybe one's a center back, one's a midfielder, and then U22 midfielder for in case Lara goes down, or Show, or even a new TAM player if you bring them in from the midfield.
All right, couple more questions I'd love your thoughts on.
For sure.
First one, though, it's a sad one, but it's just sad not because we don't love the guy, but because it's hard to know now. But Paxton,
Mm.
you know, he's such a team, almost like a mascot. He's a beloved guy. I've heard the media folks at FC Dallas just talk about how such a positive guy he is, and he's willing to do anything for the team and be a spokesperson and be a presence, you know. But at some point, you may have to make that tough choice to say the career isn't working out here, you know.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you gotta look at. Oh, that's tough because he does make quite a bit of money, but I think it's one of those things where, you know, the season before last, he had that injury, and then obviously this season he played I think it was not even 15 minutes total, and he had that knock. And all right, Mason, Rookie, you can chill with that. But anyways, I gotta throw me up a little bit. So I think you gotta give Paxton that one last chance, and the reason I say that is, yes, he's on a lot of money, but when he plays, he's one of our best players on the field. You know he's gonna give 110% no matter how he's feeling. That whole season he played where we thought he had no injury or like a small knock where he missed a game or two, he was playing on this hip and knee injury at the same time, still giving 110% for the club, and that's something that not many of our players do. Where they're willing to fight for the badge. I mean, Paxton's got a lot of history with the club, coming through the academy. He's got a lot of I don't want to say pressure, but a lot of a push from the fans. Obviously, taking Bobby Ryan's number, and being trusted with such a delicate part of our history. I think Paxton is one of those guys where if we let him, he would be a 100% play his career here type of guy. And I think we got to pay him a little bit of respect. Supposedly this knee injury fixed everything, restructured the knee. From what I've heard, he's been doing well. He's walking a lot better, even on the sidelines. So many to recent games, seeing him walk around and even trot and run after Allen before Allen started playing, just messing around with each other on the sideline, having a good old time, and just seeing the movement back. And I would give him, I think 24 or 2025 is not necessarily a make or break, but if he can go and play, amazing job. Then I think, like you said, it might be time to either think about reducing that contract number a bit, or possibly seeing if anyone would like to take him.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough one because the guy's a trooper and such a pleasant present, and I guess they'll be evaluating that over the offseason to see how his recovery has gone. And yeah, I'd probably at the very least you give him a camp to see, and then you have to make the choice when you make roster decisions and cuts, you know, that maybe. But yeah, I hope he's comes back 100% and is able to, you know, fulfill everything that we have believed he's capable of, because he has been such a positive presence. But the other question then, it just I think is the interesting sort of challenge for the FC Dallas roster as a whole is and that's why I like the addition of Ruan. I'm open to the Paul Areola sticking around. But you really do have a group of guys who are at that cusp. And even Kamungo's a little bit into that, though he had a great breakout season. But you have these guys who are talented, obviously, but are going to really need minutes, potentially, of serious development to kind of get over to the hump and become more consistent. And so that's these guys that have been going back and forth between North Texas and with with FC Dallas. So from Kumungo to Endelay to Pondeca to Sante, you have some of these guys like that who are sort of these in between things, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they solve that and evaluate each of those players and who gets to stick around, who's worth giving them more minutes to. But at some point, and I think particularly of a Corca, like I didn't mind his signing at all. I mean, it was a depth kind of guy and young still and had a little bit of experience. And so maybe he was going to turn that into something. But at some point, you got to put up or shut up. And he didn't even start this last weekend again before North Texas. So it's like at some point, It's time to move on, right? It's time to let some of these guys go. And Dante Sealy is an obvious one. but or to find loans if you think that they're worth hanging on to. But that's the big puzzle piece that they've yet to really solve is where can we find that loan partner? And Antonio Carrera went out to Carolina FC or something and played some minutes, but they called him back because they needed bodies. And so, boy, Mason is he's
he's going in.
All right. So I think they've got to solve that and try to figure that out, because I just get a sense from this North Texas squad even that some guys like Padrino, and you have Enesali, who I don't think they're going to just cut, though some would like them to move away from him. I think they're going to give him another year. He's only 18 years old. I mean, he's such a youngster. That they may want to create space for those guys to get a little bit more minutes or more competition. And so, at some point it's a bottleneck. You have all these young guys who are almost there, and at some point you got to figure out who you're going to entrust. So what are your thoughts about making those kinds of choices?
Well, I mean, let's see. Looking at the team and really just looking at players, like you mentioned, Ahmet, I think kind of his signing was not only like an emergency center back option, but also he has a bit of the Croatian background. And I understood from people, like some of the media guys and everything, is that he was basically let's get Petar Musa a for sure friend and everything while he's here because of the Croatian background. And apparently that was a good chunk of why he signed, but also to be that emergency center back for Dallas if needed. And ended up, they needed him at North Texas for a little bit, and he gave some pretty good serviceable minutes, but I would still say that, Nico Gordon still outshined. Vestergaard also did really well as good. Did really good as well, if I could speak English. And I think Ahmet's definitely one you cut loose. And then looking at the rest of this North Texas squad that's signed to the first team, I would if they're gonna sign more center backs, I think Carl Sante's got to go out on loan at least. And the reason I say loan is he's definitely showed that he can play for the first team. I believe he played a couple games under Nico this season. And there was one game he looked completely lost. And then I think a game or two where he looked honestly really solid MLS starter level. And with players like that, you see the ability and you see the purpose there. And I think he's one of those you gotta loan out if you're not gonna promote him to the starter team, first team. And he's one of those that when you look at North Texas, he's always dominating when he plays. And while that's a great thing to have for North Texas as a club, we still got to remember that North Texas is still, at the end of the day, a team. I mean, it's a second team for a reason. It's to give those players that might need a jump start in their career or a restart in their career, gets to come back, or even players come back from injury to get minutes as well. And they, I believe, is 100% ready to start probably in another season or two of development. You got Isaiah Parker as well. I think it's time to cut ties with him, and I hate to say that because he looked so good coming out of the draft. But he didn't cut it at San Antonio when he went out on loan. His injury this season's unfortunate, but even before the injury, he didn't look spectacular. Even on North Texas, he had a few good games, but didn't look amazing. And he was quickly replaced. And I mean, he's making over the league minimum. I think it's time to let him go. Dante Seeley, 100%. I mean, if he wants to play for North Texas, sure, but I think he got to let him go too. Just think that in because I hadn't dug at him yet or said anything about him yet. And I think for Pondeca and the Scott, you got Malik and Tariq. I think for all three of those players, they're going to be wanting first team minutes soon. I mean, Pondeca got some, and I believe Leagues Cup, and he looked really good. And as Salih, I think, is one of those two where you maybe give him a few runs of the team early on in the season in March or so, and then if he doesn't look good enough or ready to go, I think you try to get a loan move for him because, I mean, he's still 18. And he's shown moments of brilliance for North Texas. And if he can live up to even a fraction of the hype that he was getting of this wonder kid status, then then I think he's definitely someone to hang on to. But players are for sure getting rid of are Parker and at least Sante on loan. If he doesn't want to go on loan, then obviously let him go. Same with Seeley. And then I'm trying to find a loan for Pondeca at least for sure. Most likely Salih as well.
Okay. Well, good stuff. I mean, I think it's going to be the critical kind of decisions they're going to have to make. And the sad thing is, I think too, is that there isn't really a market within the U.S. right now, within North America, because like Carl Sante, for instance, he really has some value, not just because he's, I think, made a nice rise up of ranks of playing time, have shown that can be a really quality piece, but he also is international. He's regular with the Haitian national team. Not that they're great or anything, but that opens the doors for him to go abroad somewhere and to get some possibilities. And so you'd wish someone would come in and make an offer for him, and we could get some of these guys spread out a little bit across the landscape. But there's not much of a market in the USL Championship to go out and buy players from the Major League Soccer. They're going to do free agents. They're going to, so it's a shame. Someday maybe that might happen. For right now, it just there's not a huge market for these guys, and so that's unfortunate. But because they obviously have some talent and need some opportunities to showcase that talent and to keep growing. So, FC Dallas may be trying to figure that out. And maybe this Benfica relationship will be part of that solution come down the line. But I think we said that before with the Bayern relationship that, somewhat short-lived. Well, I need to leave it here.
Get Thomas Muller at the end of his career.
Right. Well, I need to leave it there. Kuv, thanks for joining us. Jose couldn't make it, I guess, tonight. But we did have a good recap of North Texas and FC Dallas and started thinking about these offseason choices. By the way, tomorrow morning, there will be a press conference with Zanotta and with Dan Hunt. And obviously, we'll probably hear the first inklings of what they're thinking with their coaching search. Kuv, right now, I guess I don't want to ask did he do enough, but Luccin, if he is tagged with the position going forward, are you hopeful for 2025?
I think you can do with a decent amount of roster rebuild. The reason I say that is, Luccin, we kind of saw his style of play with these last two games, kind of, we're not making playoffs. Let me just try something. And he talks about multiple times not having enough time to play his full idea of the kind of football he wants to play. So I think if he has an offseason to do that, if you're able to see how it looked these last two games against Portland and Kansas City, and Portland was one of our better away performances of the whole year. And that was without starting, without Coast starting, and a bunch of key players starting. So if he can get that kind of result out of a half A, half B team, and consistency is key. And Luccin kind of scared me a little bit with consistency, but I think once he has an offseason behind him, if he's named head coach, I'm completely fine with it. But I think it's one of those things where we can't do what we did with Nico and hold on for so long.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, we're going to leave it there because that's what we'll see. We might begin to learn tomorrow what the plans are for FC Dallas in this offseason. Thanks for joining us tonight, Kuv. And, of course, follow us at afterburn.soccer. And we'll be posting the audio bright and early in the morning. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.